So, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Funding Your Master's Degree in Counseling, our financial aid information session. Thank you for joining us this evening. And just to get started here, I want to go ahead and introduce all of our staff members who are here with us today. So at this point, you probably have seen me multiple times throughout the fall and early in the spring through maybe general counseling webinars, student panels, faculty panels. We did have a financial aid webinar back in late fall, and now we're back starting the spring with this final financial aid webinar for the MS in counseling. So you've seen me multiple times, but I do want to go ahead and introduce some other folks here as well. Nettie Matz, who's our Director of Financial Aid, Jennifer Fordham, our financial aid specialist, and then also Liz Woodwood, who you might have seen in other webinars as well, our Director of Enrollment Services. So together, we're going to walk you through the next hour. And for the agenda here today, we'll talk about sources when it comes to funding your Master's of Science in Counseling, financial aid at Johns Hopkins School of Education. We'll go into federal changes for 26 and 27, how to apply for federal aid. We'll talk about private and alternative loans, cost of attendance for the program, scholarship opportunities, payment plans, and applicant financial aid timeline. And then we will also end with opportunity for you all to connect directly and schedule one-on-one appointments with our financial aid office. We will have some time at the very end of the webinar to field some questions. So as we kind of go through the presentation, you're more than welcome to enter questions through the Zoom function. Some of us might be answering some of those questions as we kind of go, and some of those questions may be saved for the end of the program. And just a final piece here as well, this session is being recorded, and we will share out and put it on our YouTube list within 3 to 4 business days after this evening. But enough of me. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our financial aid team.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Eliel. And before we dive in, I wanted to kind of give folks an overview, and I wanted to start by explaining how financial aid student accounts, our support system throughout the university is organized, so you know exactly whom to contact depending on your question. So at Johns Hopkins, you'll basically see across these 3 blocks of the slide here. We're organized and we're managed through a collaborative framework that involves 3 key offices. So SEAM stands for the Student Enrollment Account Management Team. You often refer to us, they are the central team. And SEAM Financial Aid handles federal loan administration, federal and state grants. They work with our team to manage federal work study, veterans tuition benefits. The student accounts or the billing office manages obviously billings and payments, tuition payment plans, and third-party payments, and employer-sponsored tuition. And the School of Education and our Office of Financial Aid, that's Nettie and Jenny, who you'll hear from more in a momentarily, are managing program-specific scholarships. You may be receiving, including our counseling program scholarship, our endowed scholarship, and then our newest scholarship, the Tan and Chen Global Scholarship for international students. So when you're thinking conceptually, think of these offices as a coordinated team. If you ever feel unsure about where to direct a question, you can always start in our general email, the SOE underscore finaid at jhu.edu, and we will route you to the right person. But do know that there's a whole team behind this, kind of supporting your journey and helping you fund your master's degree. And with that, to talk about funding sources, I'm going to turn it over to Jenny Fordham.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Jenny Fordham, and I'm the financial aid specialist here at School of Education at Johns Hopkins. I may have written with some of you, and I hope to meet all of you. So just to get started with funding. So the School of Education Financial Aid will be your resource for any questions, just like Liz Woodward said, you have relating to funding your program. We will help with providing financial literacy and debt management. We'll also assist students when special circumstances arise that may affect your ability to pay cost. And at the end of this presentation, you will be provided with a QR code to schedule an appointment with either Nettie or myself. And we encourage you to schedule right away so that we may help guide you through your financial journey in your program. Okay, so first let's discuss sources and types of financial aid offered to you. When planning to finance your degree, it's helpful to consider funding from 5 main sources. At the top, we have federal sources. These are the programs funded by the US government. Federal direct loans, which we'll discuss in detail shortly, federal work study, which provides part-time employment opportunities, and federal grants, though these are limited at the graduate level. And then next we have state sources. State grants and scholarships, which vary significantly by state. Maryland residents, for example, should explore Maryland state programs. Next are university resources. The institutional aid that Johns Hopkins offers are School of Education scholarships and grants, which will be discussed in detail later in the presentation. These are competitive and based on merit, need, or both. This is free money that you do not have to pay back. And then next we have employer sources, the tuition reimbursement or assistance programs. Some will pay up front and others reimburse after course completion. We'll help you coordinate employer payments with our student accounts office. And then finally, we have private sources. Please be aware, and we'll go over this more later, but that Grad Plus loans are no longer an option with the implementation of the Big Beautiful Bill. We now encourage funding from private loans as an alternative. Private student loans can be from banks and credit unions, and private sources can also be from external scholarships from professional organizations, foundations, and community groups. These sources can help fill the gaps when other sources don't fully cover your costs. Okay, next, let's dive deeper into federal aid, which is typically the largest component of graduate student funding. Federal aid, the federal direct unsubsidized loans are the primary federal student loan program for graduate students. So let's make sure you understand exactly how they work. First, the maximum loan amount that you can borrow is up to $20,500 per academic year in federal direct loans. This is the federal limit and not a JHU limit. This amount covers fall, spring, and summer terms combined. Your enrollment requirements are to receive the full amount, you must fill out the FAFSA and you must be enrolled in 18 credits over the academic year. If you're enrolled in lower credit levels, your loan amount will be prorated accordingly. You must be enrolled in at least half time, which would be 3 credits in the summer and 4.5 credits in the fall and spring. So to be eligible for any federal loans, you must be enrolled in those minimum credits. The unsubsidized designation just means that interest accrues while you're in school. Now, I want to note there's a critical upcoming change starting this year. Federal loans will be prorated for students enrolled in half-time. So the amount of loans per semester will be prorated based on the number of credits, half-time or above, you're enrolled for each semester. So for example, if you're enrolled part-time, 6 credits for the fall and 6 credits for the spring, you'll receive a prorated loan of $6,834 per semester or $13,668 total for the year. So that would be based on the part-time. You would not be able to get the $20,500 as was done in previous years. So I know this can be confusing, but we don't have to get into the weeds right now. We encourage you to make an appointment with Nettie or myself so that we can help guide you in this process so you know what is available to you based on the credits that you're going to be enrolling for. And we'll be able to also provide any necessary federal updates so that we may keep you posted on last minute changes directed by the government. And they are changing constantly. Okay, next. And how to apply for financial aid. You have to complete the online 2627 FAFSA at studentaid.gov. Be sure to use the school code of E004750 on your application so it links your FAFSA to our school. If you simply just do Johns Hopkins University, it's not linked to the School of Education and therefore we don't see your FAFSA linked to your account. If you're not sure, just give us a call, send us an email, and we can check to make sure that it is in our system. And next. Okay, I already touched on some of this, but I just want to reiterate. So it's changing for the 2627 federal student loans. I already mentioned that beginning this year, loans for less than full-time enrollment will be prorated. Another significant change that I mentioned earlier is the one big beautiful bill that's a tongue twister, is that federal direct Grad Plus loans are being phased out. If you have received scholarship funds and a direct federal loan, and you still need extra funding to cover the tuition difference, the best source is private loans rather than Grad Plus loans. Next. Now, these private loans, you do not need a FAFSA to apply. It is not required for any private loan. but you do need to still use the SOE code of E00475 just to link the loan to our account. And as I mentioned before, with the phasing out of the Grad Plus loans, we encourage students to apply for these private loans. A preferred lender list will be released sometime this summer. In the meantime, please visit the Elm Select Lender Marketplace, and I will put the link in the chat for a non-exhaustive list. Including in Elm Select are also options for international and non-citizen students as well. And that's different than the Grad Plus. Grad Plus, you had to be a US citizen, and at least for the private loans, international students also can apply. So I'll put that link in the chat. Oh, Nettie just put that in the chat. Thank you. Okay, Nettie, I'll turn it over to you to discuss cost of attendance and cost in detail.
Thank you, Jenny. So cost of attendance is probably the most abstract idea that is hard for students to understand. Cost of attendance, you will see no matter what school you go to, you've seen it in your undergrad, whether you remember or not. What it is it takes the direct costs, which are tuition and fees. So those are the items that you are billed directly. Those are what you're going to pay to Johns Hopkins. And the indirect costs, which are books and supplies, transportation, educational costs, personal expenses, things like that. Things that you may incur while you are attending school. Adding the direct costs and the indirect costs are what combines to get what is the cost of attendance. So the direct costs may be, I'm just throwing out figures there. This is not exactly what it is. We'll get to that in another slide. Direct costs may be $20,000 for the year, and the indirect cost may be $10,000. You're going to pay $20,000 to the school. Indirect costs may be $10,000. You can get in excess of your tuition and fees to help you pay for those remaining things to get you to the cost of attendance, but that would be refunded to you so you can help pay for those costs. I know it's very confusing. If you have questions on it, we can still help you. You can go to the next slide. But we also use cost of attendance to help us figure out what your need is. Cost of attendance, again, the direct costs and indirect costs. We use that. So every student is going to have their own cost of attendance. We use that number minus any scholarships or grants that you may be awarded. And the student aid index. The student aid index is going to be the number that we get back from the FAFSA. If you haven't filled out a FAFSA in a few years, it used to be called the EFC. That was the expected family contribution. It is now the student aid index, or SAI. So it kind of is used for the same thing, but not exactly the same sort of calculation. The student aid index can be anywhere from negative 1,500 all the way up to 99,999. So we will take that amount, subtract it from your cost of attendance, and that's how we figure out what your specific financial need is when we're looking at awarding scholarships or need-based aid for students. Go to the next slide, please. Okay, so this is a sample cost of attendance. Okay. Again, what we were talking about with the direct expenses. So if you're just paying Hopkins for your tuition and your registration fee, you're going to look in that peachish pink box at the top. So tuition, and this is for 9 credits. So full-time at Johns Hopkins is for grad students is considered 9 credits. You may take more credits than that when you are a student here, but when we are listing this, 9 credits is full-time, so this is how we calculate a cost of attendance. So tuition for each semester would be $12,825. There is a registration fee for every student for each semester. So that is your total cost for direct expenses. That is what you're going to pay to Johns Hopkins. We also build in there indirect expenses. These are things that you may incur while you are in school. So we build in this information so you know these are the things that you might have costs for. Okay. You can get loans up to This is our estimated cost of attendance for next year, up to 55,605. So if you need anything in this list, you can get your loans up to that. A loan would come in, loan, scholarship, a scholarship grant, anything like that will come in that amount. Your tuition and fees would be subtracted from that, and any excess would be refunded to you. Okay. Um, the other thing that we use this for is that looking at your direct expenses and your indirect expenses, your costs of attendance for the school year or each semester is listed at the bottom. If you do get scholarships or grants, you can subtract that from the number that is at the bottom, and that is what your cost of attendance would be for each semester and the total year. Okay. This will be once we are finished with cost of attendance for the all our programs for this year. It will be posted onto our website, but it will look similar to this. Okay. Let me go to the next slide. And this goes back to Jenny.
Eddie, could I stop you for a second? We have a
Yes, you can.
question in
Oh,
the,
sorry.
it says, can you repeat what you said about the loan being $55,000 on the cost of attendance? So just,
Mm-hmm.
so we don't have to come back,
Yep.
maybe we could,
Yep. Can you go back to that other slide?
there we go.
Thank you. Okay. So when Jenny was talking about private loans, so as she stated with the federal loan that you cannot go above 20,500. If you are a full-time student, um, with the 9 credits in the fall and the 9 credits in the spring, you would be able to get the 20,500 for the year. It would be split into the 2 semesters, and that is not going to be enough to go up to the cost of attendance. But remember, you are paying for tuition and the registration fee to Hopkins. That is what you're paying in a bill. That's what's going to be charged to you. The rest that is in the green, that is just suggested amounts that you may need to have to pay for those. So we're not saying it's going to cost you housing 17,000 from us. Okay. That is just a suggested amount that it may cost you for the year to live. Okay. So you have the option of getting up to $5,500 in loans or any other aid that you may need to help you pay for those things in green. Okay. The 20,500 is what you can get in the federal loan, and then you can get on top of that a private loan to help you pay for the remainder. Okay. Does that help? Let me know if that helps.
And of course, scholarship gets deducted
Mm-hmm.
there, folks.
Mm-hmm.
So over 40% of our incoming students do receive some kind of scholarship. So that's where it's really, really important to, once you receive your kind of decision notification, is to sit down and start planning out.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, I know this is kind of hard to understand, but the main thing you want to look at is the direct expenses because that's what you're paying to us. The rest of it you're paying housing, you're paying either rent or a mortgage to your mortgage, to your rent. You're going to have to buy food. You're going to have personal expenses, transportation, and all that. You're going to have to pay those things, but it's not directly to us. But there is this built-in buffer that if you need help paying for that, you can get a loan. You can get that extra scholarships and any of those type of aid to help you, and that would be refunded to you over top the 26,000 that it does cost you for the year. I hope that helps.
Thank you, Nettie.
Mhm.
And as I discuss these institutional scholarships and the aid, this will help. If you do receive the award, it will cover tuition. So it's not going to cover these extra indirect costs that Nettie is saying because we're not billing you those costs. So just to be clear, these scholarships I'm about to talk about will directly offset your tuition. So with that, we have 2 scholarships available to counseling students. We have the Counseling Program Scholarship, which is a partial merit scholarship ranging from $8,000 to $10,000 a year. Now, the FAFSA is not required, so this award is open to all students. International students are eligible. No separate application is needed, and this award and these awards are multi-renewable beyond the first year based on academic performance and pace. The second award is the School of Education Endowed Scholarship, and this is a donor-specified, limited, and partially funded award ranging from $4,000 to $8,000 a year. This award does require the FAFSA and the submission of the separate endowed scholarship application, which Nettie just put that link in the chat. Thank you, Nettie. Students must reapply for this every year, and applications are due April 1st. Now, to maximize your funding opportunities to offset your tuition, you are able to layer all these scholarships, awards, and financial aid. So if you do receive the Counseling Merit Scholarship and you receive also the need-based SOE Endowed Scholarship, you're able to layer those together. So you can combine those to help offset your tuition. And of course, the federal loans, obviously you can layer that as well. And that can help offset all your other costs as well. Next. We have a third scholarship that is open for all international students for School of Education, not just counseling students. This is called the Tan and Chen, which is limited and partial. And again, Nettie put that link in the chat. Thank you so much. This is a limited and partial award for international students. This requires a separate application, which is that link that Nettie just shared, and the submission of the JH2 financial consideration form, which is when you apply. The deadline to apply for this scholarship is coming up. It's March 13th, and students must apply for this award every year. It's not renewable, and award notifications are expected by late March. Nettie can talk next about the tuition payments and third-party payments.
Thank you, Jenny. There is a question from the very beginning that I will get to. But there is one that said I applied to the endowed scholarship, but the automatic email after made it seem like I applied for 24, 25. We have had a couple students tell us that. I'm not sure why it's telling you that you applied for 24, 25, but
I know
you
why.
can always, oh, go ahead, Jenny.
Because that's my mistake. I went in and
Oh,
I've updated all the forms every which way, and
mhm.
then there was one space where it says it's like down in D where it says confirmation email, and I just saw it right there. So I apologize.
Okay.
That's my fault, but don't worry, you
Mhm.
have applied for the 26, 27.
Yeah,
Thank
I was
you.
gonna say that's the only form that is out there is the 26, 27. So if you filled it out, you did the correct one. Um, and then the other question was, if we got an acceptance letter, when would we hear about the financial aid aspect? I will get to that, I think, within the next two slides. But I promise I will answer that. So, I know we've been talking about financial aid and how you can help pay for it, for your tuition expenses and all of those kind of things. If you would like to completely pay out of pocket, or you get a scholarship and the rest of it you just want to pay and you don't want to have loans or anything like that, we do have an option of payment plans. It is on our SEAM billing website if you wanted to look into it. Um, it is the Nelnet Campus Commerce. What it does is take what you owe and break it up into payment plans. Depending on when you enroll in it, it will break it up into 4 installments if you enroll very early. And then if you wait till um, like September or something like that, it'll be 3, 2, and then you have to pay the entire thing if you wait too long. But there is that tuition payment plan if you decide to want to pay out of pocket. There is a small enrollment fee for that. Um, and that is every semester. So if you decide you wanting to do the payment plan in the fall, there's an enrollment fee, but you have to enroll again in the spring. There's another enrollment fee. So you do have that option. You can do both financial aid and the payment plan, or you can do the payment plan by itself. Or if you have enough aid, it would just cover your tuition and you would not have to enroll in the payment plan. Then we also have third party payments. So if your employer decides that they want to help you out, um, you would just have to fill out paperwork each semester for JHU to know that you have a billing arrangement. And that again is through the billing SEAM office. That's where you would get the paperwork and they would just go in and complete that. so that we know that you are getting a payment from an outside source. And here is the timeline. So this is where that first question, when you would hear about any scholarship offers or anything like that. This is our applicant financial aid timeline. If you have not completed your FAFSA, you want to make sure that you do that right away, as Jenny had mentioned before. The school code is that E00475. And like she said, if you didn't put it in there and you have questions about it, let us know. You can always just go back in and add the code. If you know how to do that, just go ahead and do it yourself. You do not have to take out the other school that is in there. You can leave it in there. You can take it out. It's perfectly up to you. Just as long as the School of Education is in there. That's all we need. The endowed scholarship application, that is the three that I put in there. The first one is just a general link that has both the endowed and the TAN and Chen in there. The endowed scholarship application is due April 1st, so you have about a month to do that, but you might want to do it right away. The counseling fall admissions decisions, they are rolling. So I know there are a few out right now. So if you haven't heard yet, there are still admissions decisions being made. The scholarship notifications. So this includes the merit, the counseling merit award, the endowed scholarships, and the TAN and Chen. They are mid-March to late April. So they could start as early as mid-March, but um, all the way through till late April. Okay. That is just the scholarship notifications. If you are filling out the FAFSA with the intention of using the direct loan, the loan may not be on there immediately. That comes a little bit later. So just know that you might get the scholarship notification and then a little bit later get the information about the loan. Financial pre-packages, like I just said, the loans with it might be a little bit later than just the scholarships. And then responding to your admissions offer, the enrollment deposit due date is May 1st. And then I know we talk about it a lot as we're going through here, but any questions you have through any of this process with financial aid, there are many reasons to meet with us. Just to maximize your available funding, we can talk about things that you might have missed. We try to go over everything that we have in this webinar, but if there's anything that you want to talk about, we can always discuss it in our meeting, and we will, after this slide, we do have a QR code where you can make appointments with myself or Jenny. Navigate complex requirements. The FAFSA can be complicated. If you didn't fill it out yet or you have questions on it, just let us know. Set up a meeting with one of us. Prevent errors in over borrowing or the incorrect loan type. Over borrowing is really a thing. We try to make sure that students are not taking out too much money because remember, you do have to pay this back with interest. Create a strategic repayment plan because, like I said, you do have to pay your loans back, so you don't want to take out too much. And access ongoing support. So we are here for you to start your program, and we're also here through the entire program. So you can contact us anytime through your entire program. And then I can see the questions coming up and going away, but as I'm reading, I can't do both. So if you still have questions, you can put it in there. And then Eliel, if you can go to the next slide, because that has yeah. So there are, go ahead.
Nettie, there's a question. I think we have a anonymous person asking about, can you please speak more about the different options for international students? We did cover it, but maybe just maybe speak to just international students.
That's fine. So the TAN and Chen is definitely one of the scholarships that you want to apply for. That is specifically for our international population. And then we do have, you can email me directly or the SOE FinAid as well. I can send you scholarship links. You can also Google or search scholarships for graduate students. I won't use my word that Liz picks on me for, but if you search scholarships and something looks funny while you're looking for them, just ask us about it. The biggest thing you want to be aware of while you're looking for scholarships, while you're searching and everything, is that they're not asking for any personal information, and you're not paying for a scholarship application. So you certainly may look for any type of scholarship um, on the internet. You can bring in as many scholarships as you want. Just make sure that you are paying attention to whether they're, scams or something like that. And if you have questions, like I said, let us know. But the Tan and Chen you definitely want to apply for. And then outside scholarships and grants, you do want to look for searching for them on the internet. I'm just looking through those questions while I'm talking too.
I did want to add that,
Mhm.
see, international students should also not be afraid or encouraged to explore external resources such as the Education USA Advising Network scholarships offered in their home countries, Government Ministry of Education,
Mhm.
international professional counseling associations. And as Nettie said, if it looks, if you want us to review whether it is a credible or legitimate opportunity,
Mhm.
we'll be happy to do so. And you can either email or set up a time to speak to Jenny or Nettie.
Mhm. And I do send out what Liz was just saying. I do send those to students when you email me. I can give you links to some of those sources as well.
Right. I'm seeing a lot in the chat about maximum amount of scholarship that an international student can be awarded. And I did want to kind of set the stage for this, that the School of Education does not offer any single scholarship that covers full tuition for the entire Master of Science in Counseling program. So all of our institutional scholarships are considered partial awards. However, international students are just as capable as our U.S. citizen permanent resident population to build what I call a multi-source funding package. By combining, you might be eligible for a counseling program merit. You might layer that with the TAN and Chen. You're certainly going to look at your personal and family resources, private loans, oftentimes with a U.S. cosigner. Again, those external awards, home country government, um, you know, kind of looking at multiple opportunities that are going to help kind of feed into your total funding package.
Mhm.
And I think that's
Um,
true whether you're international or a domestic student.
yes. Um, I have had a lot of students reach out about this one question with which scholarships are loans and which ones we don't need to pay back. Anything that is labeled a scholarship or grant um, that you would be receiving. I'm just thinking in my head to make sure anything that counseling students would receive. Um, those are scholarships. Those are monies that you do not need to pay back. If you are offered the majority of you would be offered the federal loan if you are filling out the FAFSA. That is a loan that does need to be paid back if you do decide to um, accept that offer. So anything that is labeled a scholarship or grant, you do not need to pay back. Um, and then the federal loan and or if you decide to take out one of the private loans that we have been speaking about, those you do have to pay back with interest.
Okay. We have some
Thank,
questions about federal work study for domestic
yeah,
students or
yep,
US
thank
students.
you.
Sure.
Mhm. Um, you do have to complete the FAFSA for federal work study. Um, if you are eligible for it, we can offer you the work study. There are options on campus So you do have to live, well, you will be living in Baltimore if you accept your offer to this program. Um, right now we have counseling students that work um, in many different places on campus. Um, there are offers for students to work within SOE. We are trying to get students to also work with Baltimore City school districts as well. So if you are interested in work study, please let either Jenny or myself know so we can see if you are eligible for work study and we can put that onto your financial aid notification. For work study, it does not come off of your tuition, off your bill. You do get paid, so it is like a regular job. You'll get paid every 2 weeks, but you can put that towards your tuition if you want to, or you can put it towards anything that you need that is educational related to help you pay for school.
And just to build on what you're saying, earnings
Mhm.
through federal work study are paid directly in a paycheck. Again,
Mhm.
as Nettie said, not applied to your tuition bill. And those work hours are designed to be compatible with your academic schedule. Beyond work study, because you have to have eligibility or need to participate in the federal work study. But we also have a JHU student employment portal that lists on-campus job opportunities across all of the university. So graduate students in counseling, some find relevant positions in student affairs, counseling centers, academic support offices. So it's called SMILE. And we can put it in the chat for those of you that are interested in part-time opportunities across campus. So that's also, we do encourage that students apply early in the beginning of the academic year, summer and fall, as positions are competitive and they do fill up quickly, but those opportunities are available as well.
So the students asking, are there student jobs for international students, not just work study, kind of what Liz was just saying. If you do go onto the Smile website, there are other jobs on there, not necessarily just work study. So you can go on there and there's other jobs not requiring students to have federal work study. So you can still do that. Okay, and that's what Liz was just
Right.
explaining there. Mhm.
And international students to be more kind of do have opportunities, but they can get some employment if their visa, if they're, provided it's on campus, right? It must be campus. You can't go get a job at at a private organization industry. So F1 visa holders are subject to employment restrictions. But on-campus employment, including graduate, assistantships, if you're later in your program, are permitted for like up to 20 hours a week during the academic year. So that's fall and spring. And up to, off campus is not permitted. But students who come into this program also, I think one of the big benefits are eligible for curricular practical training and optional practical training at the end of their program. And, anything within the program. So, part of the academic curriculum requires you to do clinical practicum and internship hours. Those are authorized under CPT. So, for those of you, but those are not paid positions. So up to 20 hours a week on campus. And, again, that Smile um, website is your best bet, but you should plan your resources carefully. Um, shouldn't rely on off-campus, kind of the on-campus employment, but should look into that as an option to help support you.
And just in talking about that, I want to touch on this other question about someone wanted to know, are there specific housing grants or on-campus housing grants? And they're not, but we would suggest possibly getting a job on campus. So that could kind of go to Liz's point. That would be the best way, but we do not have specific housing grants. Another question, if we could maybe go back to the cost of attendance slide. Someone's asking if the cost shown for the 9 credit hours slide included the MS counseling program scholarship merit in its fee. So no, it's just Nettie can talk about this if but it's not in here because it's not we're not assuming that everyone will get the merit scholarship, so we didn't think it would be fair to put that in the cost of attendance. We want this as, conservative as possible. So I'm not
Yeah.
sure if that's your question, Nettie. Maybe you can determine if that's different, but
I'm sorry. I was looking for the smile. Thank you, Elio.
yeah,
I was looking for the smile website. I think what I hear for the question is if the scholarship was in here. Part of the reason we didn't do it as well is
yeah.
because, depending on um various reasons, the amount of the scholarship may be different. Um, so uh the scholarship would be down here, and that's why we just put in scholarship subtract. So whatever amount of your scholarship is, because you could have the merit scholarship, you could get the merit scholarship and the endowed, you could get the merit scholarship and tan and chen depending on your situation. So that's why we didn't put an exact amount in here. So let's just say you have the merit scholarship for 800 or $8,000. So that would be split in two. So it's 4,000. You're not seeing my mouse. I am pointing my mouse like you are seeing it on the screen and you're not. I'm sorry. So it would be split in two. So 4,000 in the fall, 4,000 in the spring, 8,000 off the total year. So you just want to subtract the amount that you personally get in scholarships, grants, and even if you get scholarships from outside sources, like we've been talking about, you want to subtract those amounts off. And even if you get an employer assistance, you want to subtract that amount off as well. So anything that you are getting that will help you pay for your schooling, the tuition and the direct expenses and indirect expenses, you want to take those amounts off, and that is what your net tuition cost is for the year. I hope that helps.
I think it does.
Good.
I did want to
Oh,
answer a question that was submitted before the event. I think are there scholarship or financial support options for current or former federal government employees? The School of Education does not currently offer a scholarship program per se, specifically for federal government. However, we do have several general funding pathways that may be relevant to this population. Employer tuition reimbursement. There are federal agencies that offer tuition assistance or reimbursement programs. Students should consult with their human resource office or professional development office to determine eligibility, like any kind of annual limits and application procedures. And we do have an office for third-party payment arrangements that can work to check to see with your employing agency whether they can be billed directly. We also have a very robust office for veterans educational benefits for active duty veterans, eligible dependents, using GI Bill or post 11 GI Bill, Montgomery GI Bill, or VA educational assistance. And that's through our SEAM central office. We can put you in touch with in the link and put our veterans as well. Also, federal student loan benefits. Federal employees may benefit from some public service loan forgiveness. And we also have Maryland National Guard can apply for state tuition assistance if you're that. And, you know, certainly we'll work with you one-on-one to kind of navigate that option. Okay.
these are great questions. Thank you. If you have more, there's another. This question is about the timeline of the program, about the course program. So with doing full time, would you say, and I also want to reiterate, and LEL can step in, when we show the cost of attendance, we mentioned 9 credits because that is considered full time for graduate studies. So the full time program, if you're taking that full time with counseling, you'll probably be registering for 12 credits in the fall and 12 credits in the spring. I just wanted to say that just so you're aware. Um, but would you say it's most likely that a student would get this program completed in 3 years? I wanted to calculate how much the cost of attendance would be for the amount of years. So let's see. Eliel, can you speak to that of the
I'm
program
good.
time?
I'm going to say something real quick,
Okay.
Elio. Just remember that the 9 credits that we posted there, that is the cost for 9 credits.
Yep.
So yeah, so that is per credit. So if you wanted to calculate what it is for 12 credits, off the top of my head, I'm very sorry. I do not remember what it is per credit. You just want to add 3 more credits onto there. It's just the way that we have to post our cost of attendance. It's just full time. And we do realize that there are most of the students will be taking the 12 credits. So you do need to make sure that you're calculating how much 12 credits are. Okay.
Yeah, and to speak about the program, layout for full time, if you go directly through our website, and I'll include the link here in a bit, but it is laid out for a full time student to take 4 courses or 12 credits per semester for the fall semester and then the spring semester. The program is built in a way to give students the summers off generally, right? Now, if you wanted to take courses in the summer, you would have to see what classes are being offered. Typically, they're minimal. So I would generally say that our students are never really in a position to take a full-time course load during the summer. They're typically doing that in the fall and in the spring semester. So if you do that full-time layout, you should expect to finish the program within 3 years. We have seen some students at times push it and finish it in 2.5, but generally from an admissions standpoint, in order of planning your life, right, in the next 3 to 5 years, I will tell you to plan as a full-time student to finish the degree in that 3-year timeline. For part-time students, that can differ depending on how many courses you're taking, but generally a part-time student will finish it in 4 years, and you would have 5 years max to complete the program. Once you get past those 5 years, you have to essentially restart and reapply for the program, but that rarely happens. We generally see students complete that within that 4-year mark.
I know Jenny is answering this question,
Mm.
but somebody is asking if 9 credits is full-time or 12 credits is full-time. For graduate programs, 9 credits is full-time. Okay. But this program specifically, students usually take 12 credits. So you are meeting the full-time requirement at being at 12 credits. It's just that 9 credits is full-time for grad programs.
We also have a question about, are international students allowed to work 40 hours in the summer?
They can work up to 40 hours according to regs. In off periods, but again, that's going to depend on a couple of things for our F1 visa seekers. I would feel more comfortable having you, for those of you who are coming, we have the Office of International Student Services, which is kind of our hub and the seat for all things related to international students studying here on immigrant visas. And I would want you to check in with them about what your eligibility is over those breaks and summers on how much you're able to work. The general guideline has always been during off periods. There are opportunities that it is a little more liberal, but the exact number of hours would need to be done in consultation with that office.
I did calculate how much it is for 12 credits. So per semester it'd be 17,100. And that's just tuition, so you want to add the 175 on it again.
Andy, can you repeat that just in case somebody?
Yep, it's 17,100 for 12 credits per semester.
Yep. Thank you.
Mhm.
Does the 3 years include internship? Eliel, do you want to talk a little bit about I'm assuming that Caitlin is asking if the internship is included in as part of the coursework.
Yeah, so if you're doing 3 years, right, full time, that third year in the program is typically going to be your internship experience along with a few other courses. So you would do a set of hours in total, it's 600, but typically half of those hours will take place in the fall semester of your internship third year, and then in the spring of your third year would be the other half. So that does take place in the third year, and then your practicum, which comes before your internship experience and is it's necessary for you to complete the practicum and pass, um, typically happens the semester prior to that, second year in the spring semester. I did put a link in the chat box with the sample program for counseling, and you can take a look at the full-time and part-time status for both clinical mental health counseling and school counseling, and you'll see that in that third year, that internship experience is placed there, and then the practicum of 100 hours typically comes in the second year of the spring semester.
Okay, we're continuing to take questions, folks. These are all great questions. One thing I think we love in financial aid and admissions is the engagement. Don't worry if you feel like you're repeating it. Um, we'll be happy to answer. Some things we may have to take offline and talk to you if it's a personal situation, but or something that's very targeted to you, but always happy to keep that dialogue going. So please feel free to keep asking questions here.
Can I answer the question about the transferability of licensure?
Sure.
Sure.
So yeah, so that's the piece for graduate students. We do ask you to do your research when looking at programs if you're thinking about relocating outside of Maryland. Now, we are a CACREP accredited program, so generally that does make it a little bit easier to transfer your license at some point right later in life. We do have a legal disclosure document on our website, which I'll include here on the chat box in a bit. But generally, you want to start thinking about, hey, I might relocate to New Jersey, right? So you want to start doing the research of what New Jersey requires and how that aligns with the program here at Maryland. You can always feel free to send us an email in the admissions office, right? We can provide some general guidance. But generally, I would say the transferability of a program that's CACREP, right, you are going to see success more often than not. Sometimes it may differ in the amount of hours that you need of practice before you get your full license. So, for example, the state of Maryland requires 3,000 hours to go from a graduate level LPC to a full LPC. Other states may require less or more. There are different types of exams that different states require, right? So those are pieces that you want to start thinking about. I know our faculty would always encourage or do encourage our prospective students to explore the American Counseling Association website. I think that is also going to give you a good starting place to explore how the licensing piece works, right, within the program. And then also look at the Counselors Compact, which is a fairly new initiative that is trying to make telehealth a little bit more accessible for both practitioners and just the general population. But I'll include those links there. So hopefully that gave you at least a bit of guidance on where to start.
Are the internship hours unpaid so that a third year student, we definitely need to make sure we have ways to pay for personal experience. And if we were to be part-time, would the internship hours also be chopped up over the 2 semesters? Eliel, do you want to tackle that or do you want?
Yeah, so it's not, it's sorry, my voice is going out. It's not a paid. So your internship is not paid. So you do want to kind of account for that. And it is kind of split, right? Those 600 hours of your internship that's required is split into 300 hours in the fall and then 300 hours in the spring. Did I get that question, Liz? I was
Yeah.
typing when you were reading. So
No,
I
no,
think
I'm
I caught most
sorry.
of it. No,
Yeah.
you're good.
Yeah, clinical placements, folks, are considered part of your academic curriculum, and they're primarily ed experiences that are unpaid because you're being graded for them. That's consistent with standard practice in CACREP accredited counseling programs. So, so you want to keep that in mind. And, if you are offered admission, our counseling program has kind of a pretty robust handbook for students and a lot of guidelines around what you'll need to think about for that 100-hour practicum and the 600 combined internship hours. I don't think we could answer about transferability of the credential to a state like California. But as Eliel talked about, you definitely should research that.
Liz, is there There's no difference in tuition with internships, correct? It's just the standard cost of tuition.
It's a standard cost of tuition, but some of the internships, for instance, in school counseling, um, they do occasionally offer a condensed internship,
Okay.
and that might be 6 credits, and then you may see students doing that split up, like Eliel had mentioned, 300. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, there are additional course fees for some of those courses. Like
Okay.
there's a fee added
Um,
in there for,
okay.
your placement.
Okay.
I
So,
think
go ahead, Jenny.
that's okay. I was just going to say there's just questions about part-time and the hours. So I'm not
Mhm.
sure if we want
Hmm.
to, if that's what you're going to,
Yeah,
someone's
I was
asking
just
if they're
gonna.
part-time, would the 600 hours be filled over more than the 2 semesters, or would the
Yes.
2 semesters still be the requirement? Okay,
Yes. I mean, if you're
thank you.
part-time, you're breaking that up over 2 semesters, if that's clear. Is that what we're,
Please chime in the question and answer if that's not being clear, because there's another, just to make sure,
Yeah.
600 internship hours is not counted towards the 3,000. That's another question for that. So
Yeah,
Liz
so
has
I
got
can
that
an-
one.
I
yeah, no.
can
Yeah.
I can
Okay,
answer that one. So when it comes to
perfect.
the 600 hours that you complete with us, you can carry that over the 3,000 hours that you need to get your full license after you graduate from the program. And I will also just add, as other questions come in, as we kind of go through the cycle, we will be holding additional webinars and potentially in-person events for admitted students, probably April, early May. So there will be opportunities to continue engaging with us to get more answers about practicum, internship experiences. So yeah, definitely feel free to either email us or wait for those events to go live.
Could someone complete this program in 2 years?
I'm not comfortable saying yes to that. From an admission standpoint, I'm going to say 2.5 to 3 years. 3 years being the standard, and 2.5 if everything does fall into place.
What about any career resources provided for international students after or before graduation to get a licensure? Do we,
So we do have an experimental coordinator within the School of Education who will work with our counseling students, both domestic and international students, right, to guide you and assist you in getting your license here for the state of Maryland. I will also say that you will also receive a faculty advisor in your cohort who will also provide guidance, one, in finding an internship site that works for you, and then two, helping and guide you through that process of, what life looks like once you finish the program. So you will receive that guidance and support as you kind of go through your second and third year.
It looks like we're coming up 2 minutes to the hour. And, certainly I think our goal in having this evening is that we hope you feel better informed and more confident about the financial aid landscape at Johns Hopkins. Of course, your next step, if the QR codes for Nettie and Jenny get on their calendars, and encourage you to scan one of these and book a meeting. These are confidential, and I think it's one of the best things you can do to set yourself up for success. And of course, our email is there. But I personally want to thank you for joining us this evening. We know your time is valuable and we appreciate your commitment to learning about the resources that are available to you. And so, we wish everyone the very best in your application process and certainly hope to welcome you in the fall 26 cohort. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Eliel to help close us out.
Yeah, so just kind of want to reiterate what Liz said. Thanks everyone for joining us this evening. There'll be more future webinars coming here in the next few months as you get ready. If you do get an offer of admission, as you get ready to make that final decision. So just keep an eye out for your email. Feel free to reach out to us at any point, whether it's financial aid or the admissions office. We're here to support and guide you through this process. But other than that, thanks everyone for joining us.
Have a lovely evening.
Thank you.